Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bill and Ammon's Bogus Hangout. It's it's looking back at the history of Google because of some questions in my Twitter stream, and notice I wrote an article 11 years ago today about Google's supplemental index, which makes you wonder what's actually going on behind the curtain.
Do they still have an actual supplemental index? It seems to me now that they have dozens of different indexes and they don't necessarily call any of them supplemental. That it calls various ones at need.
It was referred to as an extended index. In patents, it talked about something like the supplemental index 11 years ago, but it wasn't referred to in that as a supplemental index.
Yeah, because it did seem that at a certain point, some years ago now, we stopped having supplemental results, and it might have been around the time of caffeine, actually. For those that weren't around during those times, congratulations, you young people. It used to be that, Google had so many live pages, and if there weren't enough results, it could pull in extra from the supplemental index. And the supplemental index was mainly the stuff it hadn't crawled so recently, hadn't crawled so often, was a little bit less sure of. So it was great for backfill.
And they knew the words were on those pages, but they hadn't ranked them according to things like PageRank or
right
factors.
Yep.
We always assumed it was because there was they were less sure of the quality of those pages, and until they had time to get around to them, they were just going to throw them over here in this pile. And so if you found yourself in that pile, you knew you had work to do, which was a good thing to know.
Yeah. I think that was it, wasn't it? It was more that it hadn't passed at least one or two of the usual quality checks that the rest of the algorithm, the rest of the content went through. Therefore, it was the B grade pile. Here's the stuff we checked, and here's the other stuff we know about, but we were less sure of. It does seem now, and as we say, possibly from caffeine, possibly from the treadmill effect, where everything is ongoing and there isn't this has been processed and this hasn't pile. Maybe that's why it disappeared.
And now they do a drop off where they show the phrase that they may from your query that they may not have included in results with a line through it at the end of the results that they're showing.
Yeah.
I sort of like that they're showing those and they're excluding some of those query terms and they're telling you which ones.
Yeah. And it sometimes intrigues me that, looking at, okay, why did you exclude it in these two, but you found documents that have got them all later, but you still think that my query was probably wrong and your guess is going to be more exact, even though there are results with all of my words in. I find that interesting. Not necessarily brilliant, but interesting. I think it's probably very good for the casual user who has always struggled to word searches anyway, but I always tended to be very exact. If I've included those words in my search string, there's a reason. And it's all very well, telling us that RankBrain lets it understand the word without. But what happens when you're only 5 results down the page and it's already excluding results that don't have it doesn't have the word without, but we'll throw it in anyway, Yeah, I'm hoping that Dave will jump in a little while. I think he had a online meeting with somebody. I know, enjoy it while it lasts, because you know if he comes on, that's that. Quiet's out the window. We can talk about local, you know. So we haven't done the standard thing. What have you been up to this week, Bill?
I found an interesting patent I'm writing about. I'm working on it. It's more one of those semantic search type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the one where if you ask what was the movie Robert Duvall starred in, where he said, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning." Google says, "Oh, you mean Apocalypse Now?"
Yeah.
Because it's looking all the properties and facts, and it's crawled those. It doesn't matter what links are involved.
Well, that's right. What it's found you know, quotations, and it's seen in that quotation that this actor said this in this film, and therefore it knows which movie that is. It's got its little.
So that's maybe the future of Google after PageRank. I don't know.
But Bill, how is that semantics? It doesn't seem to include LSI keywords.
That's the tough part. I mean, if you keep on stuffing it with keywords, you're never going to get that result anyway.
Exactly that. And it is one of the interesting things, isn't it? Is that the opposite of what I was saying about search. There's times when you've forgotten the right word for something, and what you're trying to find actually is the right term, particularly when it's terminology. You know, you're trying to remember what's the right name for that thing, and you know, it doesn't matter whether you're trying to then describe an illness by its symptoms and hoping to remember what the name of that illness was or find it, or whether it's a movie from quotes, or whether it's an actor who's the actor who played such and such in such and such a movie.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of times when we want the search engine to help us fill in the blanks. There's times when the keywords are the words we're not using.
And that's where Google Home or Alexa is going to be really helpful.
Yeah.
Especially since they're only giving one answer.
Yeah, I certainly think that's going to be quite interesting. I think things also where there is a list will sometimes be fine as well. What movies was Robert Duvall in? And it may list a top 10 by either box office takings to indicate popularity, or by movie ratings, or by number of citations. I think any of those things would be interesting, but certainly a short list. But it's going to be interesting watching them play with how long that list needs to be. You remember the old thing about 7 items being the magic number?
Plus or minus 2. Yeah. That was another myth that people were using to tell you why they wouldn't put more than 7 things in a menu item.
Yeah.
On the website.
Because on average, on studies, it had been found that, once you got past 7, people start to forget 1 or 2 of them. 7 was about the number that you can have in your mind on a very broad scale. It's not that everyone could manage 7.
It was based on an experiment with how many musical tones people could remember in a row.
Yeah.
And somebody was saying that information transferred over to things like web page items in a menu.
I still must admit, I do tend to like giving people a limited choice set at a time, narrowing things down, and even 3s. The classic magic number that goes back in human history as far back as you can go. People are used to 3s,
or at least Saturday morning rock and roll commercials. 3 is a magic number. Yeah.
But yeah, you know, the triumvirate is a number that goes back as far as people can possibly track. You know, long beyond writing. I do find it's interesting. I always liked it in giving proposals to clients.
Mm-hmm.
One of the tricks that I've taught some of the SEO companies I've worked with over the years is when you're pitching, make 3 pitches. And it used to be, you know, people would sort of, okay, here's the realistic one. Here's what, you know, I think they're going to go for, and here's what I'd like them to go for. Well, you know, that's great. A lot of people were doing 2 pitches. I said, look, do 3. And first of all, that one that you'd like them to go for, that's your bottom one. That's the one it really ought to be. And then go for the next one up should be, right, if you're serious, you know, what would you be doing here? And then the third one should actually challenge you. And it's, if budget was no object really, what could you be doing? What's the most you could realistically be doing for this client that still has very, very good ROI, that's still on the same ROI as those others, without losing the ROI? What's the maximum you could do? And it's surprising how often people at least go for that middle choice, and sometimes they'll go for that top one and actually push you as an SEO to learn more.
It's the good, better, and best philosophy of marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, sometimes the clients will go for the supersize option and find that in SEO it's not unhealthy.
Right. Exactly.
But I think it also makes the SEO challenge what they are doing. It makes them challenge their own ROI. It makes them think of new things they could be doing, which will improve their service. And I think too often companies of all sorts, but you know, SEOs are certainly not immune to it, get into the package deal mentality. This is what we do, and we're going to sell it over and over and over again until it stops working. Never mind when it stops being as effective, until it stops working, we're going to ride this pony to death.
I had a client ask me about using semiotics on the website, and pointed to a Gianluca article he had written about semiotics. And he really didn't give any steps on how you would try to implement meanings of signs and so on in a web page. So I didn't know what to tell them. I did point out schema extensions and ontologies as options for them, which they found interesting and fascinating, but maybe not quite what they wanted to do. So I told them, I'll keep an eye out for new patents that come up with new ideas. And I like clients who are interested in doing new things.
Yeah. I'd say that we do use it in a few places. The hyphen is often used in SEO and web design in a sort of semiotic way. Certainly the greater than sign is used in breadcrumbs. And of course we use all kinds of little menu items, and the shopping cart is recognizable almost everywhere, or the little shopping basket. Interestingly, some of the IBM research done years ago into usability across the world found that even countries where they've never seen a shopping cart understood what the shopping cart meant when they found it on a website.
But you have to be concerned about using things cross-culturally. I did made a big mistake when they tried to take a web design that they use in the US and apply it in India, because they use a metaphor of a home where different types of stains took place in different rooms, like a kitchen versus a bedroom versus other things, and different things got dirty in different places. So their metaphor, the stains that happened in a kitchen weren't really understandable to their Indian website visitors, because people in India have a multi-use room as opposed to a kitchen. They use the same room to entertain in, to cook in, to do a few things. So it wasn't quite the same concept to them. And so cross-culturally, it didn't work well. People didn't understand there's a stain that might be associated with the kitchen. What's the kitchen?
It would have made more sense if they'd done it by activity rather than location. Because again, you know, look at the classic Italian kitchen. That's where a lot of the meals are actually eaten, because the Italian family culture, particularly, you know, the big family meals are often done while the cooking is going on. There are so many dishes. So, you know, we all know that a lot of parties happen in the kitchen. Wherever they're meant to happen, they actually happen in the kitchen. You know, that's the place for talking. And I think they really did miss their mark there. And it's not just cultural, it's simply marketing. They missed the fact that this is understanding people, because even in our own cultures, there are people from other cultures who act differently. It's one of the reasons that, you know, I always say marketing is the absolute building block that everything else, all SEO, has to fit into. Because if you've got that basic message wrong, all you're going to do by promoting it through other means is widen the number of people who see you making an arse of yourself.
Yeah.
So, Steve, what have you been up to this week?
Let's see. Yesterday, I spent the better part of the day, you know, basically chewing out a client. That's always fun to do. I got the most lovely email in the world, because I do all their analytics for them. I got this email saying, "So what are the numbers on this new product?" And I'm like, "Okay, number one, what new product?" They go, "Oh, this new product." I go, "Okay, and where is this at?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, we've also got a new website." And did you guys get all the analytics and stuff set up on it? I don't think so. Yeah, it's going to be hard for me to pull numbers for you. Yeah. Fortunately, I have access to the back ends of all their actual sales processes, and wrote up a little, you know, did a big export of all the people who bought stuff, and then wrote a little database and some Excel spreadsheets to sort it all out. But yeah, what should have been a 15-minute, here you go, turned into a 4.5, 5-hour grind that I really wasn't looking forward to doing on a Monday morning.
Yeah, I love the way they just assume that, you know, we are psychic. Generally,
yeah,
you know, there are so many times, so many occasions where we're expected to know all these things going on. Yeah, we don't.
Yeah. And, you know, and he's like, "Well, you know, all you have to do is carbon copy me when you email your developer, so at least I know what's going on."
Yeah,
I don't need to be involved as far as making the decisions, but it'd be nice to know it was going, so that I could make a suggestion, like, you know, install analytics.
Yeah. I must admit, I am a great believer in, when a company is outsourcing anything at all, create email groups that are activity based. So anything that happens on the website involves the copywriting team, the web dev team, the analytics team, and if there's a separate SEO team, the SEO team as well. Is there a separate social media team? Yeah, them too, at least, so they know what it is, and then use the, you know, email topic to let them know what the topic is, so they know if it's just a for your information or whether it's actually, hey, you need to be doing something about this.
The problem is he makes so much money flying by the seat of his pants, it's hard to convince him that being organized would help.
Yeah. But that's because he's given you access to his back end and you can wipe it for him.
Yes, and I do frequently, and there is a line item on the invoice every month that includes that fee.
Yeah. Which is, you know, this is it. You can't complain when a client has that and understands that and pays for it. And if they're happy to do it that way, okay.
That's one of the things I try to explain to people who are in the business with us, and they complain. And it's like, look, all you have to do is raise your rate to a point where you are happy to do the work. And they will continue to tell you to do these things, but you're going to charge them enough money that you honestly don't care.
Exactly.
It's just like doing data entry. I refuse to do data entry. But if you pay me $85 an hour, I'll be happy to sit and type. And I've got one client that does pay me that because I'm the only person she wants to touch her website. Okay.
Yeah, you can't really knock that. I must admit, I'd probably still pull in a bloody college leaver, even though I had to sit beside them and watch them do it. Okay. Yes, I'm the only person who has touched your website.
I pay my wife $40 an hour, and I don't have to do the work and still get all the money because, you know, it goes into a joint account.
Yeah. Let me just quickly see what's going on in the comment threads, if anything. Nothing on our main one. Oh, I've got to actually try and find the page. Forget that. Yeah, I'll have a look for that in a minute. I know one thing that's come up for all of us recently is the whole LSI thing still isn't going away. There's a level of denial. There really is. And I don't mind that in a way. You know, my job isn't to convince idiots how to do things right. My job is just to give people an alternative to hearing the idiots. If you can think about something, maybe you'll notice that this makes sense and all those people don't.
Right. A computer doesn't magically understand that two words are somehow semantically related to each other. There's a process by which Google understands what synonyms are. And one of them is they came up with the context vectors approach, where they'll look at a knowledge base and they'll look at all the terms that may help define a meaning for a word and call those context terms and make a list of them. And when they look at your page and your page includes that word, they might look at those context terms and see if any of those words are on your page too. If they are, they'll say, okay, that when he's talking about horses, he means the animals. Because words like saddle are on his page.
Yeah.
And it's not just magical, semantically related terms that are SLI words.
Yeah. It still does bug me that people grab a term because one of the words is a word they recognize but don't understand, semantic, and completely ignore the other two.
What does latent mean? I don't know, but it says semantic.
It really does strike me that it's like somebody hearing the movie Flashdance and thinks it's obviously going to be all about, you know, animation for the web using Flash files, but dancing while doing it.
Maybe.
Well,
you know, they are latching on to one word out of context and then thinking that that kind of behavior means they understand anything about semantics. Hello. You might want to research proxemics.
And then for somebody on Twitter to say something like, you must not be a very good SEO if you don't understand that when I say LSI, I mean semantically related words.
Yeah. And even then, you know, even the semantically related words, you know, latent semantics isn't about the words you add, whether they're related or not. It was always about the subconscious, the subsurface level, which differentiated it from just semantics, which they knew other people were working on.
Right. The technology, the patent behind it uses an example of 9 books.
Yeah.
And that's not the web. You know,
and I said in a comment somewhere else that I think sometimes the problem is that Google is a company and SEOs only think about the web search part. They forget that there is Google Scholar, which has indexed books that don't have hyperlinks between pages. The only contextual thing between one page of a book and the next is an associated rel next and rel previous. And even that, you know, we're kind of assigning by the order of scanning. Now, I can imagine in Google Scholar, when you're looking inside a book, that using something like LSI to determine what a chapter is about would be quite useful. It might well work there. It's certainly, the edition of the book isn't going to change. That edition is that edition. There's not going to be suddenly extra pages appearing. And there's a fixed number of them that fits within what LSI can deal with. So it does strike me that within a book, LSI might be useful. It's just not useful within the web.
Well, they've shown us that they're using other technologies too, like they have the book engram viewer, where you can search for the history of words and phrases throughout time.
Yep. I must admit, I've wanted to see Google doing more interesting stuff for the future. I'd wanted to see Google create a thing that showed us how words evolve in real time, spotting a phrase that didn't exist before and how it spreads. And how that, you know, as you start to understand semantics and apply semantic analysis, then you should be able to spot when words are changing meaning. And I think that would be fascinating stuff to see. Is it monetizable? No, but then again, was Orca. Half of what Google does isn't really monetizable.
Is Google Trends.
It strikes me as something related to that, you know, and we get this weird research like, oh, we can predict the turnover for a movie in its opening weekend, and we can predict this and that. Well, that's great, but how about you actually show us how our world is changing? That would be kind of more interesting.
I think some of that frightens them. They did acquire a company called Wavy about 2 years ago from MIT, and it would be able to tell whether or not somebody was coming down the cold by magnetometers and other devices within a phone. So if you're starting to walk awkwardly, it could tell whether or not you're sick. And it could look at the Bluetooth handprints of all the phones from all the people you came into contact with to see if you were physically near them and to see whether or not they caught your cold.
Yep.
So that's one way of possibly telling how flus are spreading.
Yeah. Which would certainly be interesting. Maybe CDC told them to keep it quiet.
Maybe. The researchers at MIT said, we don't talk about that too much.
Yeah. it's always interesting to watch what's going on, but I think SEOs really need to stop worrying sometimes about the labels and the technology. Yeah, unless they're really good at understanding these things, unless you're building a search engine, TF-IDF is not going to help you as an SEO.
But that's been a common problem, no matter what you talk about in SEO, whether it's link juice or link equity or page rank or any of the terms that get used. You always wind up with a little group that has defined that word means this. Yep. And it can't mean anything else. And if you use it in any other way than the way we've decided it should be used, you're wrong and an idiot and a horrible person. And it just gets frustrating because for me, everything in SEO is all about analogies and trying to explain things in real world terms to people who have no clue about information retrieval and algorithms and how search works. If you're in the industry and you can't figure this out on your own and you need to be able to, say that this is this and put a wall around it, then you're probably not very successful.
Well, that's why we have social media marketers. That's where they're supposed to go. They're supposed to go do that. Get out of this. Go.
Hey, David.
All right. Sorry, I was at a meeting. But anyways, yeah, that's, come on. What was inbound marketing? I haven't heard that one in a while. That's where another bunch of them went. Inbound marketing. Over there.
I hate the term, but I like what it's supposed to mean.
Well, yeah,
Right, as opposed to like growth marketing, which is about what? Warts?
Growth hacking now, isn't it? Isn't it growth hacking now? I shit you not. The guy in the meeting I was just in used the term. No,
Inbound was a distinction between broadcast and attraction. Inbound marketing was all about what you bring to you rather than you interrupting people doing.
Well, that was always the joke, wasn't it? That one of the first things inbound marketers came up with was outreach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Inbound outreach. Okay, makes sense. Sure.
Yeah. Exactly. Complete and utter nonsense. It's a lot like SEO companies that email you. If an SEO company is emailing you for business, they're not an SEO company, they're an email marketing business, because obviously that's where they rely on to get their money.
And what about SEO companies that email SEO companies to sell them SEO?
Yeah.
Well, those are always my favorite, dude. I literally, every once in a while when I'm bored and I get one, I reply just to see if they even bother to check the website before they start to sell me anything. And of course they don't. Oh, what can we do for you? We do this. And it's like off they start going. I'm like, if they took 2 seconds to go look at the website that they've emailed, which is Verve Developments, you know what I mean? It's not coming into my personal account or Gmail. It's literally coming into Verve. They took 2 seconds to even go at the look at the website of the guy you're trying to sell to. They'd probably go, wait a minute. These guys do it. You're messing with me, aren't you? But no, they don't do it.
Yeah. I've always wanted to know if an old friend of ours, Clarissa Silver, ever gets this, because she owns the domain you'rejustadumbass.com, which is actually all about psychology of dating, really. But it always struck me as the perfect domain for them to be emailing them about.
Well, I'm still, I'm waiting for my first one that came on the SEO snake oil domain. The first one I get on that, I'll be a happy guy.
Yeah, but I do remember Matt saying, Google.
Matt got a bunch of them. He used to get them all the time.
Emails. They get dear webmaster at google.com. Google isn't showing up on google.com. Really?
Yeah. Google isn't ranked in the first page of Google for search engines. We can help you with that.
Well, it's obviously the title tags,
Oh, yeah.
Not enough H1s on that result page, So.
I was absolutely shocked earlier, though, reading that article from Joe Hall about TF-IDF. and some of the companies that were now trying to sell basically keyword density technology of the 90s as TF-IDF. And I mean, they hadn't changed anything, because one of these, what it was doing, the corpus of documents, was the other 20 top ranked things for this. But the whole point of IDF is that it's supposed to be against all documents, including, you know, the percentage that are not about this, because the point of IDF is to show how rare your topic is. If your corpus is all within this topic, that's not IDF.
No.
It's idiocy. Maybe that's it. They think IDF is, I don't think.
SEO. Pretty much what we do is full of, or at least the providers and people you talk to. But I just think positively, as long as these people are still idiots, then there'll always be clients looking for someone to replace them and always have work. Someone had the old SEO dead thing, and I think it was dumb SEO questions, Steve, a couple weeks ago or something. And I was like, yep, it's dead. All of you should give up. Go now. Leave. Get out of the industry. Thank you very much. Take care. I'll be the only one left. Yep, it's gone. See you around.
Yeah, well, of course, the latest on that I've seen is because Google's Lighthouse is now doing SEO audits, or about to do SEO audits.
Yeah, I saw it. I haven't played with it, but I haven't played with it. But somebody actually posted some of the stuff in the reports, and it's very, 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 very basic. So
yeah,
I tried it. It wasn't showing me the SEO audit option.
No,
really?
I installed it. Keywords, the TDF, IDF, you know, nothing. Obviously, no good at all.
Well, there's not an LSI tool in there, so crap.
Yeah.
Don't have TF-IDF here.
And a text to code.
There's no way to hook up my Majestic API to it. So really, come on.
Isn't it the thing? I mean, I know you guys are pretty much going to say this anyway, but the tools you use are dependent on the marketing objectives of the specific business you're dealing with, and there's no one set of tools.
Well, and what you're trying to
every project,
like that's always my and you'll see it every month or so, because especially in these groups where everything goes down the page and disappears, is what's your favorite tool, singular, never mind plural. And the answer is always the same. It depends what I'm doing. What is the question I'm trying to answer? What is the data I need, and where do I find it? You know what I mean? Like I don't get the whole.
We've got a couple of comments. Gina says that growth marketing is it's basically a marketing board for changing the perception about weight gain, making people feel better about it.
See, I was thinking something along the lines of Pornhub, but okay, we'll go with that.
And Aidan McCarthy, nice to see you again, Aidan. I know it's early in the morning for you. He thinks dancing designers is a strong USP there. I think he could be right. Maybe they could explain PageRank in the form of interpretive dance.
Well, yeah. I'll just hire lots of ex-strippers and stuff, and put them in bikinis and have them conduct my client meetings that way.
Wasn't there a question somebody answered about what a Google dance was recently?
Oh, for Christ's sake. No, I've been having that argument for a while, and people actually tried to tell me, no, you don't know what you're talking about. So I went back to 2003 and dug up when it ended and all this stuff and gave it to them. But yeah, they were basically talking about flux in the engines, like, I'm on page 5 today and page 3 tomorrow and page 6 tonight. And so they were saying that's the Google dance. I was like, really? People don't know your history or anything here? Like, does anyone study any, I remember that day because I literally sat there and went, because I know other people have done it, but I felt like writing like a really definitive history of like an SEO thing someday, but can't be bothered.
Yeah.
But yeah, that died. Again, I couldn't have told you off the top of my head, but when I, because of the argument people were having, I went back and did, a little research, and yeah, 2003 was when it finally stopped, and they went pretty much, real time and stuff. Something like that.
I thought it was.
I thought it was later too, but yeah, I don't know. I remember where I was reading it. You know, it was Danny Sullivan or somebody had written it actually. So you know,
it was also the summer event at Google.
Well, yeah, see, that's what I wanted to put. Is one of those pictures of everyone dancing, right? Because that's what it eventually became. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I remember back then, dude. I used to have like lists of all the IPs of all the different data centers. Remember the data center watchers? I think it was like Web Pro World or I don't know. One of the. I remember. Yeah, I used to have lists of all the data centers so I could go and watch them all and see what was going on.
Fluctuate during the times when they're actually updating. And
yeah, it was it was called data center watching. I remember doing it.
Yeah.
People don't do that with shards, do they? I think there's just a few too many.
Which also bothers me when people try, you know, the guessing of where things are going and this and that. If you don't know the history and around, you're going to guess where it's going to go in the future. Like you're sitting around watching this thing for 20 years, and so it gives you a sense of where things might go. But just to sit there and after I've been doing it for 3 years and try and tell people where the future, it's like really.
But as I said recently in the discussion, it amuses me all the buzz about chatbots at the moment, because when I started out, that was one of the things I really looked at was chatbots in IRC, because there were more users of IRC than users of the web generally back then. You know, in the early days of the web, there were only so many websites and they were all awful. And the search engines weren't brilliant at finding them anyway. IRC had thousands of people on, active at any time, and we used chatbots.
I remember Steve and I having a conversation in one of the threads somewhere the other day. It wasn't Dojo, it was somewhere else. And you know, we were talking. Remember when, you know, Google used to actually say it's okay to use some directories and some reciprocal links, just don't overdo it. And that would change a little, and that would, you know, it was the black hat white hat thing, right, Steve? That was it. Yeah, I think that was the thread. And yeah, like, you know, so I don't want to hear about it, because what was, you know, because if you're gonna go by the definition, what Google says is white, what does, if you do something Google used to change the story every once in a while. You know, every couple of years they change it. Not excessive reciprocal linking. Then it was don't do that at all, and it was like goalposts keep moving, people. So you know, it's like
how much after the Google directory disappeared did they remove directory linking from Google Webmaster Tool, Webmaster Help? Or
no, they used to recommend DMOZ, didn't they, at one point? I'm pretty sure DMOZ was one of the things
they had their own copy, if you remember. They had their copy of DMOZ, which was the Google directory.
And they had a patent on the Google directory. It was DMOZ with sites organized by PageRank.
Yeah.
And it took 12 years for them to get that
Yeah, by which time they won't use it anymore.
PHP link directory, and it only took us 2 hours to write the software.
Well, Steve was writing in one of the threads that same week, I guess it was last week or the week before, and I could literally see all these young SEOs on the other end of their keyboards just looking at their computer, like doing, like, you know, when a dog does that thing and a dog kind of twists. Steve said to them, he says, well, I'm not worried about that if the link sends traffic. Huh? What is this traffic thing? What do you mean, traffic from a link? What? I could literally see them doing that. I was like, oh, what have you done, Steve? They're not going to get that. Oh. It doesn't have a DA and a PA beside it. They don't get it, man. Like,
I showed them a very sanitized version of the data from one of my clients. In Google Search Console, it has 179 links pointing to it. It ranks in the top 2 or top 3 for just about everything they want to rank for, and they get 16% of their business comes from those links. You know, it's like,
Steve, that one client I showed you the PPC for a while back, same thing. I'd say 30% of their conversions and revenues are coming from referral sites, not from Facebook, Google, or anywhere else.
Exactly. It is just...
There's a couple of things I add to that. It's not always just about the traffic. I know a couple of sites where you know, they're cited by a major government department or something like that. There is a credibility factor there as well that they can actually mention on their site, and it helps with conversion rates, even for people that didn't come through that link. You know, as referred to on TV, is one we're all familiar with. You know, as seen as on TV, isn't always a great thing, but it does work on people. So, as mentioned in the New York Times, as mentioned in the Washington Post, those still count. Of course, you can technically get away with those just by having an advert in there. Then screenshot that advert.
Hey man,
as featured in.
Dude, I still have As Seen in the Wall Street Journal and As Seen in USA, and interviewed on both those publications multiple times, and it's in the footer of my bloody site. Fucking A.
Yeah.
Why not?
So you know, there's times when the link itself does have a certain value on conversions, even if it isn't sending traffic directly, and there's times when it enhances the brand.
The core of the discussion came about because somebody was asking whether it was more important to look at the DA of a link or the PA of a link before trying to get that link. And it's like, my head almost exploded. So, like, how about neither of those things? Is there a chance that link will send you traffic or in some way enhance, you know, your brand? You know, if that's what you focus on, the other stuff is okay. If if it happens, it's fine. But if you focus on those things, the SEO, the rankings take care of themselves really quickly.
I was an in-house SEO for a company in the late 90s, and the best link I got for that company was on a Polish classified ads site, because it brought them traffic from an Estonian company and a Latvian company who wanted their business desperately. They were shipping boats to South America, and they needed to incorporate each boat. So that was every time they incorporated a new boat, my firm I was working with got paid. So continuing regular customers is really big. You know, when websites were dropping out off the web because they had no customers, you wanted traffic that actually brought customers.
Oh yeah, I think Steve made the joke in that thread about I miss web rings.
I do.
Hey, that's how we used to pass traffic around to each other back in the day. Like, come on.
Web rings were awesome. They were great for discovery. They were great for traffic.
Yeah.
Do you remember good blog rolls? Good blog rolls were exactly. It was like the web ring all over again.
Brilliant.
And then people had to spam it.
People seem afraid of blog rolls these days.
Yeah.
I'm not. I like them.
Well, in other news, I was just checking around Facebook since I just got back from meetings and stuff, and some guy was talking about should I disavow these comments and stuff and dummy SEO questions, and I was like, what is the question? If you got 25 domains that are doing spammy comments out there, just disavow them. He's like, well, no, what's his exact words? I was like, what do you mean it doesn't work? Because he's like, oh, they don't work. He's like, because disavow doesn't work well. For my other site, I disavowed a lot of spammy domains some months ago, but no rank back. Pretty sure that's not how the disavow works, buddy.
Yeah.
No, it's a protectionary thing. You're protecting yourself against penguins and manuals and whatever. It's not a ranking factor. All right, there we go. Yeah, the disavow, the new thing. Yeah. There's got to be some correlation in there somewhere. Where's Ammon's correlation tool? you did like 5 of those last week, and I was just like, I don't really think anyone got the joke though, Ammon, because it was just kind of, again, the whole dog thing happened after you posted it. I was like, what was the one when priests strangle something? Or it was like what totally fucked up.
There's a website out there. It's called Spurious Correlations. It's fantastic stuff. Guy called Tyler Vigan. fantastic.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently, yeah, if you disavow bad links, you don't get rankings. I don't know. Weird.
I know. But then again, there was another thread today where somebody, you know, had disavowed thousands of links, and
Links
they
are
did
domains.
get some rankings back because those links were actually harming them.
Well, yeah. Again, if you actually been, you know, devalued or dampened or whatever because of, you know, a penguin running somewhere at the background, and who knows when it runs these days, but if that's happened, then sure, you know what I mean, you're more than likely at some point going to see something climb up. But to make the assumption that you've been nailed by something and just disavowing is going to make it all better, well, no, because it's that, you know, it's that old Sherlock Holmes thing when it comes to forensics. You got to eliminate everything that it's not to figure out what it is. But you start making assumptions that it had something to do with these links when it doesn't, then, you know, the disavow is not going to do shit for you. So, you know.
Assumptions are the biggest problem in SEO generally.
Well, if anything, the guy answered it. The guy at least took one thing off the table, because he disavowed on his other site. Nothing happened. At least he knows he wasn't getting, you know, devalued by Penguin or something. So at least that answered that question for you. But they don't, you know, forest trees, you know, can't see the trees, just a forest. So.
I mean, I honestly, you know, I keep a lot of test sites up and about, and I don't even check the backlinks on most of them. I just don't bother. I'm not interested.
Hell, man, I don't even need test sites. I swear to God, about 70% of the clients I've had the last 5 years have forgotten to take me out of their Google Analytics and their Search Console. Yep. So I still have all this data every time. Someone's like, have you seen any movement in the ranks? I'm like, hold on, I'll check one of my 100 sites. And I'll go and start looking around for things moving. Yeah, no one ever seems to remember that. So, yeah, I still got tons of those lying around.
The only reason that I've got test sites is because clients are their own bucket. You know, they're all commercial. Well, they're all meant to be commercial. Some of them don't necessarily quite make the grade, but they're all meant to be commercial. Whereas, you know, I will maintain, I think of my 35 of them are complete hobby sites. They are, you know, more like the blogging sites, or just for my own benefit. There are no affiliate links in there. There is no monetization. 2 of those are hosted on free hosting. Because I want to have that whole broad section. You know, I want to have a representative of the entire web so that I can see, oh, right, here's a change, but it didn't affect the non-commercial sites. And if I'm only looking at commercial, if I'm only looking at clients, you miss that. You do. My very first ever test site was a Merck scripting site. You know, it was for IRC client Merck. How to do various scripts on it. There was no kind of monetization on it. It never meant to be. It just had some of my own scripts up there. And it was an interesting one to watch. I think it was originally hosted on Tripod. Do you remember them?
Yeah.
They were Tripod. I remember having a few on there once upon a time. They still exist, or? Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah, Tripod, GeoCities. Who was the other big one? There was one more that was sort of the triumvirate.
Wasn't there a thing where somebody downloaded the entire GeoCities thing at one point, was publishing it? I remember that way back.
I mean, there was always some fun stuff there, and it's sometimes fun to look at the non-commercial sites out there. You know, what are kids building? What are people just building for their own sake?
Well, yeah, back when there used to be thing like hobby blogs, like people just blogging because they wanted to talk. That almost doesn't exist anymore. But you know, when blogging started, there was, you know, myself included, a lot of people just were blogging for the hell of it. It wasn't about building a brand. It wasn't about selling anything. It was just wanting to talk, you know, and just get to express an opinion every day, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I still remember Brett Tabke's originally, you know, his text files that he uploaded. His blog was text files on the server. because it was the original format kind of thing. Yeah, you had to know it was there. Yeah.
Before we go,
Gina
I'm sure,
loved
Bill just wants to put a big shout out to Cora. It's his new favorite software, only $250 a month, and you can have some very strange data too.
Right. So someone is a semantically related term for a body shop?
Yep, because someone walked in the store one day. I don't. I have no idea, man. Yeah, that is just horrendous. But
And that whole list, there was like one word that seemed some way related, like auto.
it was almost completely nonsensical. At least what the one person shared on it. It to me that demo list or whatever looked almost completely nonsensical. I couldn't make it.
Yep. Of the tools that spit out interesting keywords, the one that always quite impressed me was do you remember Peter Hathley's CICE, CISE?
No, I don't think I know.
That had some very unusual correlations in there that actually, when you thought about it, you could see, and you wouldn't have thought about it otherwise. Now that's useful.
I remember, there was one maybe 2006 or something like that called Nichebot, and it wasn't completely horrible either. It wasn't, again, like you guys were talking when I first came in here. I don't think enough people have the understanding or the wherewithal to functionally take any of these things and use them in some sort of coherent way, if undervaluing, overvaluing, or not even knowing how to just try and use them. But again, everyone just ends up keyword stuffing or phrase stuffing or term stuffing or whatever with it. It's as opposed to thinking concepts and thinking related phrases and I need
a 600-word blog post and use these 1,200 words.
I've got a new term for this. I'm going to credit Dave for the dog thing. I'm going to call this chew toy SEO. Because these are dogs with a chew toy, aren't they? TF-IDF, LSI keywords, that's their chew toy, and they will chew on that thing happily for hours.
Tanya said, "Ooh, Ammon's looking nice." Well, there you go. There's a little ego stroke for the day. Happy moments. Hey, come on, dude. We just got back from shopping, and you see these gray pants, this blue shirt, and this. I picked this all out in the store by myself. Tanya was like, "Oh my God, you got like color coordinated." And she's like, "Wow," and I picked up my own clothes today.
So she let you shop to her animal section.
Yeah, well, it's not going to happen too often.
Did you do that just so you wouldn't have to wait around and give opinions on the clothes she was picking out for herself, though?
Oh, hell no. She was in another store and stuff. I was literally just trying to get a cookie and a pat in the head. I figured I'd give it she's been dressing me for 20 years. So I figured, if I hadn't learned by now, then I was just looking for a correlation with the stuff she bought me to what was in the store. And for those who don't know, Tanya has a monkey collection, all these stuffed monkeys and things like. Yeah, okay. So ran into this in the Valentine's section. Where is he? Yeah, look at that fucking monkey, dude. It's like 4 feet tall. So I said to her, "Where are you putting that?" She said, "Well, I'm putting that on our bed." So apparently, I'm sleeping on the couch from the rest of the way from here on out, boys. Just so you know. It's my life. Yeah.
We are at the top of the hour, so let's quickly do a round of what we're up to in the week ahead. Bill, what have you got coming up?
I'm going to be trying to do some writing. Not a surprise there. Maybe I'll write about keyword tools.
Yeah. Don't forget, if you're going to be writing, Bill, look up the LSI keywords so that you don't waste your time.
Yep.
I may have to look at the term frequency and versus document frequency keyword tools too.
No, you're right with your LSI tool. Then you run your TDI on top over it once you're done. Come on, what are you, an amateur?
So sometimes I get that sometimes on Twitter.
Oh.
You can't know SEO if you don't know how to use LSI keywords.
I am mostly celebrating this week because it's only taken me since 2002, but I finally managed to ask Bill about a patent, and he couldn't instantly tell me which patent it was. He's narrowed it down to what, 150 something?
135, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
135 left, right? So
See, I figured out how to do that a long time ago, Ammon. You just got to make one up that never existed. Keep him busy for weeks.
that would be cheating. You know. I like to play fair, but yeah. You know, I screenshotted that Bill couldn't find this patent yet. Not that he'll give up, but just the fact he couldn't just instantly pull it off the top of his head is a landmark.
Oh yeah, Em and I were talking about something last week, and and I was like, he's like, oh, there's this other one maybe related to this one you're looking at, Dave, and I was like, oh, okay, he's on your site. He's like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna go look. He's like, I could probably find it faster. And I'm thinking he'd written about it recently, right? Comes back in, I don't know, about 30 seconds. I think it was like 6, 7. It was like 2011 when he wrote it. He had it, you know, he popped it back up in like 30 seconds. I'm like, really? I'm like, what? What the? That's insane, man. Yeah, you need to go and take more pictures and get more walks, I think. But
I'm terrible for that. I remember writing about something, but of course, it won't be online anymore. I have to dig into the Wayback Machine to find half of my articles. I just have this habit of putting them in places that won't last. Some of the early forums I use, of course, have gone. And I still remember discussions I had there. Thankfully, Creator Site, most of them are there, but they've rewritten the software about 4 or 5 times. So actually finding them from old links, most of the links are broken, and you have to actually go in and search again. Oh, forget it. But yeah. So what are you up to, Dave? What's coming up this week for you?
Well, busy, lots of work. Dealing with my new monkey friend here. Come here, buddy. Yeah, this is my new staff member. Yeah, here he is. Verb developments, ladies and gentlemen, you need good work done. And all I can tell you is he's about as good as half the people, or 90% of the people I talk to online. So you're good hands over here at Verve. All right. Yeah. Other than that, I don't know. Oh, not on the floor. Don't put him on the floor. Oh, I'm in trouble. I'm definitely sleeping on the couch. Yeah, dude. Waxicly at work. Still trying to mentor some young guys, and that's something I'm really trying to work at lately. Following Steve's advice, whenever I get angry, I just shut the computer now. And then I don't know. I think I might actually have to compare notes with Steve, because about a week and change ago, I brought up this whole keyword thing and a discussion about keywords and research and all this kind of stuff. And then it came up in a group we were in today, and Steve was like, I want to write something about that. So apparently I'll be comparing notes with Steve. Yeah. Well, yeah, other than that, man, just still doing the same old crap every day, fighting it out, having fun, you know. Oh, and then of course we have the dojo on Friday, and then at some point we're starting up the new hangout. We'll see how that goes. Yeah,
well, I've got something for you as well, so I'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, Steve, what are you up to?
Well, tomorrow I'm going to be tearing through that client I talked about earlier. I'm going to finish beating him about the head, and then I have to dig through every single one of his websites and make sure that they're all set up properly. So that's going to be tons of fun. But after that, I got a couple of things I've been working on as far as writing. Hopefully I'll be able to publish something next week. And just trying to get as much time away from the computer as possible again. I got things I want to build, man. And they're not on computers.
It's almost like Ammon trolling me around. Now I just sort of like watching Steve go into these groups now and answer questions, and I just don't say anything. I'm just doing the popcorn thing. So I know it's just a matter of time before Steve just loses it. So I'm just like, yeah.
Have you ever considered putting a little bit of code on the client's site that, you know, if you get a referrer that is their own domain, but isn't a page that you already know about, it pings you so you know, oh God, they've done it again.
That would assume that I have absolutely any access to the development side of things, which I do not want, because I did development for this guy, and it was not uncommon to get a text at 2 a.m. with an idea And it's like, no, we're done with that. We're going to push that off on somebody else because I have no desire to launch your new product in 12 hours for you because you forgot to tell me about it.
Yeah. Perfectly understand that. Well, we are at time for this week, so that'll be it for us for this week. We will see you next week. Thanks to everyone that joined us. Gina was impressed that you can buy your own clothes, Dave. So, you know.
Just tell her I used one of my favorite SEO tools. I was just doing the correlation of what the wife had bought me in the past 10 years and what they had in the store. It was mere SEO talent, you know.
Right. Style frequency over inverse.
Right, exactly.
Thanks everyone for joining us. See you again next week. Take care.